Chinese destroyer charges at USS John Finn. 8,000 tons of steel at 32 knots. Distance, 400 yards and closing. Collision imminent in 47 seconds. What happens next turns the South China Sea into an inferno and sends shockwaves through every naval command on Earth. November 2025, 7:23 a.m., South China Sea, 120 miles southwest of the Spratly Islands. USS John Finn conducts freedom of navigation operations, Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, Flight 2IA configuration, 9,200 tons fully loaded, 96 VLS cells packed with SM-2 and SM-6 missiles, crew of 323 American sailors, standard patrol, international waters. Then Chinese Type 052D destroyer Nanchang breaks from distant observation and accelerates directly toward the American warship. The Nanchang displaces 7,500 tons, one of China's most advanced surface combatants, equipped with Type 346A ESA radar, 64 VLS cells, YJ-18 anti-ship missiles, HHQ-9 surface-to-air missiles, 2 triple torpedo tubes, close-in weapon systems, commissioned in 2017, combat veteran of multiple plan exercises. Today, her captain receives orders that violate every international maritime regulation. At exactly 7:24 a.m., the Nanchang's bow turns 15 degrees to starboard. Direct intercept course. Speed increases from patrol speed to 28 knots, then 30 knots. Bridge watch on the John Finn tracks the maneuver immediately. Range, 4,200 yards, bearing steady. Range decreasing. Every sailor who's spent time at sea knows what bearing steady means. Collision course. John Finn's commanding officer grabs the IMC. This is the captain. All hands brace for collision. This is not a drill. The words echo through every compartment. Engine room, combat information center, galley, berthing spaces. 323 hearts start pounding simultaneously. Nobody expects to fight for their life at breakfast. The Nanchang accelerates to 32 knots. Her bow wave creates white water visible for miles. Distance, 2,800 yards. Time to impact, 140 seconds at current speeds. International law requires vessels to maintain safe passing distance. Minimum 1,000 yards for warships this size. The Nanchang is doing the opposite, closing aggressively. Intent unmistakable. John Finn's captain orders emergency turn to starboard. Full right rudder. The destroyer's twin LM-2500 gas turbines push 105,000 shaft horsepower through the water. The ship heels 8 degrees as she turns. Physics fights momentum. 9,200 tons doesn't change direction instantly. The turn rate, 4 degrees per second. Not fast enough. What's your weapon of choice in this scenario? Type A for evasive maneuvers, Type B for defensive weapons. The Nanchang matches the turn, adjusts course to maintain intercept. Chinese helmsman executing orders from his captain who's executing orders from Fleet Command. This isn't rogue behavior. This is deliberate aggression sanctioned at the highest levels. Someone in Beijing decided today was the day to test American resolve with kinetic force. Distance, 1,400 yards. The John Finn Sea Giraffe S-band radar tracks every meter. Fire control computers calculate impact point, midships, portside. The collision would crumple both hulls. Fuel tanks, magazines, damage control stations, casualties in triple digits. Both ships possibly sinking. The tactical action officer's hand hovers over the weapons release authorization panel. USS John Finn broadcasts on bridge-to-bridge VHF. Chinese warship bearing 270. This is United States Navy destroyer. You are on collision course. Alter your course immediately. I say again, alter course immediately, or I will take defensive action. No response. The Nanchang maintains course and speed. Radio silence is an answer. the worst possible answer. At 7:26 a.m., John Finn's captain makes the call that will define his career. Weapons free, target Chinese destroyer, prepare to engage. The order transmits through the combat system. VLS cells receive arming signals. Fire control radar goes from search to track mode. SM-2 missiles stand ready. But firing anti-air missiles at surface targets wastes their capability. The captain needs different weapons. Range, 940 yards. 60 seconds to impact. The John Finn's AN/SLQ-32 electronic warfare system detects Chinese fire control radar. The Nanchang just achieved weapons lock on the American destroyer. Both ships now have firing solutions. Both ships seconds from mutual destruction. The South China Sea stands still. Every merchant ship within 50 miles watches radar screens in horror. John Finn's captain orders firing Mark 46 torpedoes, warning shots, not aimed to kill, but aimed to terrify. The destroyer carries 2 triple torpedo tubes, lightweight torpedoes designed for anti-submarine warfare. Range, 11,000 yards. Speed, 40 knots. Warhead, 96 pounds of high explosive. Enough to damage but not destroy a destroyer if proximity fuses work correctly. If you're enjoying this second-by-second tactical breakdown, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. The first torpedo launches at 7:26:32 a.m. Compressed air rams the weapon from the tube. Motor ignites underwater. The torpedo's active sonar pings immediately, searching for target. The acoustic signature of 7,500-ton destroyer at 32 knots is unmistakable. The torpedo acquires, adjusts course, accelerates toward Nanchang's propellers. Chinese sonar operators detect torpedo launch instantly. "Torpedo in the water!" The shout transmits through Nanchang's Combat Information Center. Chinese captain faces split-second decision. Continue ramming or defend against torpedo. Self-preservation instinct overrides aggression. He orders hard turn to port. Emergency deceleration. Deploy noisemakers. The Nanchang's rudder slams to full left. Her propellers reverse pitch. The destroyer shudders as forward momentum fights reverse thrust. Speed drops from 32 knots to 26 knots in 8 seconds. But 7,500 tons doesn't stop on a dime. The ship still carries toward John Finn, even as she turns. Range between ships, 520 yards. The American destroyer continues her turn. Speed now 24 knots. Both ships describe arcing paths through the water. The geometry creates separation. Not much, but enough. The closest point of approach, 180 yards, less than 2 football fields. Both bridges clearly visible to each other. Sailors on both ships watch collision averted by margins measured in seconds and meters. The torpedo tracks Nanchang's stern. Chinese deployed AN/SLQ-25 Nixie towed decoy. Noisemaker mimics destroyer's acoustic signature. The Mark 46's primitive seeker struggles to distinguish real target from decoy. But the torpedo is close. Too close for decoys to matter. Impact in 12 seconds unless Chinese escape. Nanchang's captain orders deployment of all countermeasures. Chaff, flares, additional noisemakers, everything. The stern of the destroyer becomes cloud of acoustic and electronic warfare measures. The torpedo seeker locks onto the loudest signature. That signature is the Nixie decoy trailing 600 feet behind the ship. The weapon tracks the decoy, ignores the ship. Proximity fuse activates at 8 feet. Detonation. The explosion erupts 600 feet behind Nanchang's stern. 96 pounds of Torpex high explosive detonates in 40 feet of water. Pressure wave creates dome of white water 80 feet high. Shockwave rattles Chinese hull. No damage. But every sailor on that ship just experienced near death. The acoustic boom travels 40 miles underwater. Every submarine, every surface ship, every sonobuoy array in the South China Sea records the sound. Don't miss what comes next. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss analysis like this. USS John Finn maintains weapons lock on Nanchang. The American destroyer's phalanx CIWS tracks the Chinese ship. 20 mm Gatling gun. 4,500 rounds per minute. Range 1,500 yards. If the Nanchang resumes aggressive maneuvers, John Finn can shred her superstructure before she closes range. The Chinese captain knows this. His Type 1130 CIWS can return fire, but mutual engagement means mutual destruction. Both ships slow to 12 knots. Maintain separation of 800 yards. Standoff. Neither captain willing to escalate further. Neither captain willing to back down. Radio silence continues, but actions speak. John Finn transmitted message clearly. Approach aggressively again, and next torpedo aims center mass. Nanchang transmitted response equally clearly. We're not leaving. We're not apologizing. Stalemate. At 7:34 a.m., 8 minutes after the torpedo launch, 7th Fleet Headquarters receives flash traffic. USS John Finn engaged Chinese destroyer with warning torpedo. Chinese vessel broke off ramming attempt. No damage to U.S. ship. Assessing Chinese damage. Situation stable but tense. The message reaches Pentagon within 90 seconds. Secretary of Defense is briefed within 3 minutes. President informed within 6 minutes. Chinese Southern Theater Command receives similar traffic. Nanchang reports American torpedo attack. Requests permission to return fire. Beijing evaluates options. Escalate to full engagement, risk losing destroyer and precipitating wider conflict, or claim propaganda victory. The decision matrix favors propaganda. Within 20 minutes, Chinese state media broadcasts preliminary reports. U.S. destroyer attacked Chinese warship conducting routine patrol. Brave planned sailors evaded American aggression. All crew safe. American response comes swiftly. Pentagon spokesman briefs media at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Chinese destroyer attempted to ram USS John Finn in international waters. American vessel took necessary defensive measures to prevent collision. No casualties. U.S. Navy maintains commitment to freedom of navigation despite Chinese aggression. Translation: they started it. We finished it. Try again and outcomes change. The South China Sea fills with additional assets within hours. USS Carl Vinson, carrier strike group alters course from 300 miles east. Arrival time, 14 hours. P-8. Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft establish continuous surveillance. Japanese destroyers transit Luzon Strait entering the area. Australian frigate HMAS Ballarat approaches from the south. Chinese deploy 3 additional destroyers from Hainan Island, Type 055 and Type 052D variants. Combined displacement, 34,000 tons. The confrontation becomes showdown. This kind of detailed tactical breakdown takes hours to research. Subscribe to help us keep making them. USS John Finn maintains position. International waters. Legal rights to operate. The crew remains at heightened alert. Condition 2. Readiness. Half the ship's weapon stations manned continuously. The other half on immediate standby. Nobody sleeps soundly. Every radar contact gets maximum scrutiny. The Chinese demonstrated willingness to use physical force. Next attempt might not include warning signs. The Nanchang withdraws to 8,000 yards, but doesn't leave the area. Chinese formation grows to 5 destroyers by afternoon. They establish patrol patterns surrounding John Finn at distance. Not threatening, but not friendly. Grayzone tactics. Assert presence without triggering combat. The Americans are now surrounded by Chinese destroyers in waters both sides claim as international. tension remains explosive. Intelligence analysis dissects the encounter frame by frame. Video from John Finn's bridge cameras, radar tracks, sonar recordings, every data point mapped. Chinese intention becomes clear. They plan to force collision, stop just short, create international incident, force American retreat through intimidation. The plan failed when John Finn's captain demonstrated willingness to use weapons. Chinese miscalculated American resolve. Cost assessment reveals asymmetric impact. 1 Mark 46 torpedo, $350,000. USS John Finn operational costs for 24-hour alert, $180,000. Total American expenditure, $530,000. Chinese costs prove harder to calculate. Nanchang burned fuel at maximum speed for 8 minutes. Deployed countermeasures worth $28,000. Diverted 5 destroyers to the area with associated fuel and personnel costs. More importantly, international embarrassment of failed ramming attempt and torpedo evasion. Propaganda value, immeasurable negative. The encounter creates precedent. Chinese aggressive maneuvering now meets armed response. Future close approaches risk weapons employment. The line shifted from verbal warnings to kinetic action. Every plan captain must now consider whether their orders are worth dying for. American captains demonstrated they will defend their ships with weapons, not just words. Your engagement directly shapes what we cover next. Drop a comment and subscribe. Regional reactions crystallize quickly. Philippines issues statement supporting American freedom of navigation operations. Japan condemns Chinese aggressive maneuvering. Australia calls for de-escalation but backs American right to self-defense. Vietnam stays silent but increases South China Sea patrols. Indonesia summons Chinese ambassador for explanation. The incident reinforces regional concerns about Chinese maritime behavior. By evening, June 3rd, diplomatic channels engage frantically. Neither side wants war, but both sides refuse to back down. American position: John Finn stays in international waters. Chinese position: American presence is provocative. No resolution, no agreement. The tactical situation stabilizes into cold confrontation. 5 Chinese destroyers shadow 1 American destroyer. Additional American assets approach. Neither side fires again, but neither side leaves. The torpedo explosion's acoustic signature gets analyzed globally. Russian submarines tracked the incident. They were monitoring American patrols and recorded everything. Indian Navy signals intelligence collected Chinese communications. Every major naval power now possesses complete tactical picture. The incident becomes case study taught at naval academies worldwide. How to respond to ramming attempts. When warning shots are justified. How close is too close before weapons employment. What would you have done when Chinese destroyer turned to intercept? Fire immediately or wait until the last moment? Comment your answer below. USS John Finn maintains station for 72 hours. Chinese formation maintains shadow. No further aggressive maneuvers. Distance stays above 4,000 yards. The message sinks in. American warships will shoot if threatened. Chinese tested the hypothesis. Chinese received definitive answer. The hypothesis is confirmed. On June 6th, John Finn receives orders to resume patrol operations. The destroyer breaks from the standoff. Resumes freedom of navigation pattern. Chinese destroyers follow at distance, but don't interfere. New normal established. China can shadow American ships. China can patrol aggressively. But China cannot force American retreat through collision threats. That option was tested and failed. The strategic implications reverberate for months. Chinese naval doctrine updates to include American willingness to employ weapons in self-defense. Plan captains receive revised rules of engagement. Maintain 2,000-yard minimum separation from American warships. Approach closer only with explicit authorization from Theater Command. The Wild West phase of South China Sea confrontation ends. Formalized rules emerge written in torpedo explosions and near misses. American doctrine also evolves. Warning shots now authorized under specific circumstances. Captains empowered to defend ships without requesting permission when collision is imminent. The rules of engagement expand to match Chinese aggression. Pentagon drafts new protocols for gray zone confrontations. When does harassment become attack? When does proximity become threat? John Finn incident provides answers. Was this confrontation Chinese aggression that backfired or American overreaction? Leave your thoughts in the comments. The encounter costs China more than torpedoes and fuel. International maritime insurance rates increase for South China Sea transits. Commercial shipping companies reroute to avoid confrontation zones. Global supply chains adjust to accommodate additional transit time. Chinese economy depends on sea lanes through these waters. Making those lanes dangerous hurts Chinese interests most. The ramming attempt proved counterproductive on every metric. Financial analysis shows American cost effectiveness: $530,000 to defend freedom of navigation and establish precedent. Chinese spent millions maneuvering multiple destroyers for zero gain. Return on investment heavily favors America. More importantly, American resolve proven credibly. Words backed by actions. Threats backed by capability. Deterrence restored through demonstration. If you made it this far, you're exactly the engaged audience that makes this channel possible. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. The philosophical lesson emerges clearly. Naval confrontation is chess, not checkers. Aggressive moves invite defensive countermoves. Testing limits reveals limits. China tested American willingness to employ weapons. America answered decisively. The test cost China credibility. Future confrontations must account for demonstrated American resolve. Modern naval warfare operates in zone between peace and war. Gray zone operations, aggressive maneuvering, close approaches, electronic warfare. Each side pushes boundaries without crossing into open conflict, but boundaries exist. USS John Finn found that boundary at 520 yards and 32 knots. Beyond that distance, posturing. Within that distance, weapons employment. Every naval commander now knows exactly where the line sits. What other naval confrontations need detailed analysis? Which weapons systems should we examine next? Which tactical scenarios concern you most? Your comments directly shape our coverage. Drop your suggestions below, and we'll dive deep into the topics that matter most to you. The South China Sea remains contested. Chinese destroyers continue patrols. American warships continue freedom of navigation operations. Both sides maintain heightened alert. Both sides remember June 3rd. The day aggressive maneuvering met kinetic response. The day ramming attempts proved costly. The day torpedo explosions wrote new rules for Pacific confrontations. USS John Finn continues operations. 323 sailors proved their resolve under pressure. Captain proved willingness to defend his ship with weapons, not just words. The crew earned respect across the fleet. More importantly, earned respect from adversaries. Chinese ships now maintain distance. Lesson learned the hard way. With explosions, with near misses, with proof that American warships will shoot when threatened. 8,000 tons of Chinese steel charged at American destroyer. 520 yards remained at closest approach. 1 torpedo exploded in warning. 0 casualties. 0 apologies. Maximum impact. The ocean didn't just explode that morning. It rewrote the rules of engagement for every naval confrontation that follows. Challenge American ships at your own risk. The answers come in 96-pound high explosive packages traveling at 40 knots.